Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by a grant from Union National Life Insurance, serving Louisiana and the South since 1926, a family-managed corporation providing whole life insurance.
Straight ahead on Folks, a new look at that old voodoo and a look at some new ideas about spirituality and psychic ability. We'll also enjoy some Indian classical dancing by Asha Ramachandran of Baton Rouge, all on today's edition of Folks. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Folks. I'm Sonya Masingale. We decided to take a break today from our usual issues and bring you something a little different, and today's program is different. So much is in the news today about the spiritual new age, we set out to find out what it all means. Well, we found that more than ever, people are searching for the meaning of life through all kinds of alternatives and supplements to Judeo-Christian religions. Now, by bringing these subjects to your attention, we're not promoting or advocating that you try any of these things yourself. Later on, we'll take a closer look at what the New Age is all about. But first, let's take a new look at an ancient practice, voodoo. If you're like most people, just the name voodoo conjures up visions of strange ceremonies and people sticking pins into little dolls. But the Reverend Dr. Lady Bishop of New Orleans says that is not what voodoo is at all. Here she tells us about the history of voodoo and how it works.
But these things can be changed with prayer.
Reverend Dr. Lady Bishop says that voodoo has a bad name in America, and as the only American woman ordained a voodoo priestess in Haiti, she sees herself as sort of a goodwill ambassador for voodoo, and she's out to change its image.
Okay, voodoo is an African science that is tied into the laws of nature and the universe. Voodoo works with the spirits and the saints, the same saints that we have in the Catholic Church. The spirits were religious holy men from West Africa that the Catholic Church never canonized. Witchcraft is dealing strictly with pins, needles, and dolls, and the black magic. Satanism is dealing with the devil.
And voodoo is not about that at all?
No, voodoo, as I said, is dealing strictly with the spirits and the saints, and knowing how to feed them and to make them work to your advantage for the good of the people.
Whatever your perception of voodoo, a visit to Lady Bishop's workplace is a surprise. Everything from floors to walls is spotlessly clean. It smells pleasantly of incense and herbal oils, and there's really nothing creepy lying about that can't be found in many religious households, except perhaps the rooster head in the miracle whip jar. This was a gift from a voodoo priest in Haiti. It is the highest honor a priest can pay a priestess. The image of voodoo is firmly fixed in the minds of most Christian Americans as evil or in league with the devil. How do you deal with such allegations?
Well, I try to educate the people to let them know that voodoo is dealing with the saints, being able to set up altars to them, knowing what type of fruits and wines that they like best and which days they like it, and that voodoo deals strictly with the Bible and the Psalms. There's a certain Psalms, whenever I give someone something to do, there's a Psalms out of the Bible that will go along with that. God bless you. I'd like to welcome you to my home today. If it wasn't for people like you, I wouldn't be able to do what God has willed me to do while I'm down here on this earth. Right now, you're facing the west. And anytime that you want to get rid of something, or you want to wash something out of your life, you do it toward the west. Do you know why? That's because that's the way the sun goes down. So anytime you want to get rid of something negative or wash something out of your life, you would work it or pray it toward the west.
A visit to Lady Bishop begins with a ritual cleansing of the sins with a specially prepared bath of herbs and oils, followed by homage to the patron saint of whatever city you are in this case, St. Barbara. Then after a prayer, she begins a spiritual reading.
Before we do anything, we start off with prayer. There's nothing that can be done without acknowledging God as having all power. I have no power. God has the power, and he uses me to pray and to bless with the people. Each person case is tailored individually according to their needs. And a lot of people feel that they need something that they really don't need. A lot of people are just suffering from stress, or so many people having them confused by telling them that something is on them when really nothing is on them. They need to get organized. And that is one of the major things that most people lack in their life today is organization. And so I mainly start off with prayer. Prayer is something that everybody needs, and it is the key to this kingdom and the kingdom to come.
Lady Bishop was raised a Catholic and discovered her vocation for a ministry of sorts early in life. Although her work is sometimes difficult, it is always rewarding.
Sometimes you look at the people and it just seems like your work is in vain, but then God always comes in and lets you know that no, it's not in vain. His way, Jesus' way, wasn't easy. None of the saints that you have your altar set up to, their way wasn't easy. And then I just start counting my blessings, and then I just keep that faith. But I've never just say turned away from God. Things have never gotten so bad where I say, well, God, I know you're not there. That's never happened to me. But I love my work. I really love my work. I just wouldn't know how to do without having the daily prayer or just working with the people. Sometimes I kind of, say, well, I'm not going to pray for someone if I see them down the road, but it's hard to stop and not offer a prayer to someone in need. It's just very hard.
Lady Bishop and her clients truly believe that she has the know-how to help people with all kinds of problems, but she cautions those who would be believers not to rush out to the corner botanical store for candles and oils.
You can take a glass of clear water, and if it's blessed, and if you were gifted to bless this, you may be able to do more with that than you can with the certain oils. You have to be very careful with these oils. Like, for instance, these oils are not as pure as the ones that we get from Haiti. These have a lot of sullivan in them. First of all, if you're not blessed to work with this, it's not going to help you at all. If you didn't go to someone that tells you what to do and how to uncross these oils and put the right prayers with them, none of them will work.
On August 16th of this year, something called the Harmonic Conversion took place. Supposedly, the world passed into the New Age, and according to astrologers, we passed from the Piscean Age into the Age of Aquarius. Some say that it's the beginning of the end of the world. Others say that it means the beginning of peace and understanding among all men. Still others believe that it is the second coming of Christ. The one thing most agree upon is that the so-called New Age is reviving curiosity about religion, and some dramatic changes are occurring in how we perceive our world. Our next feature profiles Iris Williams, who bills herself as psychic consultant, healer, teacher, and friend. Here she tells us about her work and the New Age.
One of the things that meditation does for you is it helps you become comfortable in an everyday world that sometimes gets to be rather unexpected. Bear in mind that this is the Aquarian age.
Iris Williams is a well-known psychic in the southwestern part of the United States, but her fame is worrisome to her. She prefers to think of herself as one who teaches others to tune in to their own psychic abilities.
What I believe more than anything with all of my heart and beyond my soul is that I am a beautiful being of light, a spirit within a body, and I believe the same thing about all of the other entities that inhabit this earth with me. And my place in my Father's plan with that is to help remind them of that. And that's what I do. And it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Iris discovered her intuitive abilities early in life, but she was a teenager before she really began to understand the things she was seeing and feeling.
I suppose very early, I was married at 17. I started doing public readings right at 26, but 18, 19, when I got out of high school and became a nice little married lady, friends would sit down with coffee and answers just seemed to flow from the center of me to them. I would find myself just talking to them and just touching the essence of them. And that was a heavy period in my life when I was balancing theologically and was having great periods of meditation and soul searching and self-finding. But then, of course, I've always seen spirit and heard spirit guides and teachers. One of the most profound experiences for me was when I walked out of an English class in the 8th grade, and this voice in my head, who I now know as my guide and teacher, Dr. Albert Neesham, said, "Iris," and I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You see that young man drinking water out of the fountain?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You're going to marry him someday." I said, "I couldn't. I don't even know him." And I met the young man 6 weeks later and married him 3 years later, and was married to him 23 years.
A frequent guest on radio and television shows, Iris has become adept at dealing with people who are skeptical about her work.
When you become distressed and angered and upset by someone's comments that you're perceiving negatively about your belief structure, your theology, then you have some real basic problems with your belief structure, and you really need to go within and find out why. So basically, I don't deal with people like that. I love them. And I love them enough to allow them their truth, because my truth is my truth, but that doesn't negate someone else's truth. That makes their truth very real to them. And on top of which, truth is something, because of the nature of the soul, you're an ever-evolving entity, and if your truth stayed the same, you would stagnate, you wouldn't grow. And I don't deal with people who say what I do is of the devil. I allow them to say that and love them back, and it's okay. If that's their belief structure, I don't believe in anything but God. All things are God and all things are good, including that person's criticism of my belief, because it allows them to look at their own belief structure and see, hey, maybe there's something here I need to alter, and it allows me the same facility. How do you deal with that? You just love them.
Has there ever been a time when you wish that you could do something else for a living?
Oh, every time I sit down and do a reading, it's like, geez, can I touch this person? Can I get out of the way? My health has been a real issue since my divorce. Really, always. I have a blood disease, and I catch viral infections very easily. But I was divorced after 23 years, and that's when I tried to do what normal people do. I wanted a job. I'd never worked in my life. I was always a man's wife and children's mother and friend, clairvoyant, counselor, friend, and teacher to people all over the world. I did phone consultations pretty much all over the world, and people came in my home and did readings, but that was, something else entirely. But to, be a psychic consultant and teacher professionally was another whole matter. Do I ever doubt what I can do? Always. Always, I'm never let down. I plug in and I love the person that I'm talking to, and it flows. I go to do a lecture and it's like, and I work and I work and I work trying to prepare a lecture, and there's no way you can prepare intuitiveness. It's there, it flows. And my clients don't come to me to hear pat answers. My clients come to me to be touched, and because they know that I will love them and listen to them.
On August 16th of this year, something happened. Supposedly the Earth passed into the new age. What does that mean?
For one thing, the vibration that's hitting planet Earth right now is changing us. Our bodily vibration is altering, literally. So many people in your listening audience have had this feeling right before the harmonic convergence of their nerves just being like fingernails on a blackboard, and basically I'm just nervous, I'm tense, I don't know what's going on. Massively, just look in Louisiana, just look where I live. Massively, people are changing careers, they're changing their ideas about relationships and not necessarily the relationship. They're looking at the monetary system and what it means to them personally. They're beginning to use their own divine ability to create their own reality consciously. Massively, people are going within. They're going to meditation classes. They're talking to God, and lo and behold, they're listening.
Psychic followers say that Iris has about an 85% rate of accuracy when it comes to clairvoyant predictions, and although it's something she prefers not to do, here she shares with us some of her feelings about Baton Rouge and Louisiana.
I know that this is going to be the very best year economically that Baton Rouge has had for Christmas time, because people are finding their pioneering spirit. The grassroots people that live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, are finding themselves. There are going to be boxes of cookies and candies given for gifts, you know, those old homemade kind. Aren't you guys excited out there that people are finally going to begin to do handy things and share their light and their love with something made with hand, but still on an economical, social level? There are going to be mink coats and Joy perfume bought because the money's going to be there. Money is coming into our city again because it's coming from within these people, both the people who are in our city and the people who are migrating, being drawn by the vibration of what our city is. And yes, the other thing I'd like to talk about is Baton Rouge is becoming a health and a healing center. Health and healing spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. I know that within the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to find the hospitals expanding. You're going to find healers on staff at some major hospitals in Baton Rouge, hopefully myself as one. You're going to find holistic healing, which is already coming to the forefront. Your chiropractors, your iridologist, your nutritionalist. Again, body, mind, and spirit working in harmony as one. That's what I see.
Is that for the state?
Some of it's pretty much national, but I see Louisiana as beginning to be less prejudiced, beginning to come out of recession and growing economically. I do feel stock market nationally is going to drop a little bit more between now and November 17th, 18th, and then it's going to begin to elevate itself. If people use their natural intuitive ability, if they dare to be psychic, because we all are, then these things like stock market predictions can be of service to you if you feel it out.
We interviewed Ms. Williams 3 weeks before the stock market plunged 500 points. Intuitive ability is something that is usually attributed to females, but Tom Boudreaux, the subject of our next feature, puts that fable to rest. The Tom Boudreaux, known by most casual observers and acquaintances, is a successful businessman, husband, and father. But there is another side to him as well. Tom is also a psychic.
Well, actually, all of my life, I've sort of known things, but I really never paid much attention to them. And it wasn't until October of 1980, and I can remember that date very vividly, because I went to see a psychic from England. And the information that he was giving to the crowd there just fit. It seemed like he was talking directly to me, even though there might have been 200 or 300 people there. And it was from that point that I decided that all these little gut feelings of the intuitive qualities that I had were similar to his. So I decided to look into it and find out what it was about.
What was the most profound experience you had after you discovered what your abilities were and came to terms with them?
I think the fact that I could concentrate on another human being and tell them things that were yet to be. That's scary.
How do your friends and colleagues react when they find out what you do?
Well, it ranges. Some people think I'm just weird, plain weird. Some people are taken aback because it's something that they're not familiar with, and they feel threatened in some way that I may get into their head, so to speak, which you just don't do that. And then there are those people who, once they find out, they want to know more about it. They want to know everything that's in my head at that point. And usually, you know, I will go ahead and I switch into I guess you'll call it a teaching mode or a sharing mode. I'd much rather use share than teach, because everything that I've learned I can share. And at that point, whatever I've learned, I've passed on to them, and they in turn will pass on to someone else.
Could I ask you to give a preliminary reading of me? No? Can you do that?
Yes, I could. I think I could.
Okay.
Okay. For that, I would need for you to give me your name.
Okay.
And then just allow me a few seconds to tune in, so to speak, to you.
Okay.
And see what we get.
Sonya Renee Masingale.
First off, I see that you're a very busy woman because I see you running up and down the streets very frantically. And I want to say in the next 2, 3, possibly 4 weeks, there's going to be some situation that you're going to be involved with on the work front that's going to cause some type of a stir, there'll be other people involved other than just you. It's some information that's going to make headlines, so to speak, and you will be involved with that. It's all on the positive side. I feel like that will, in a sense, help further your career. You're making a mark for yourself, but certainly now that mark is made deeper. Okay? There's also a lady from Spirit coming in, and it sounds like her name is Maud. And I want to go back to the mother's side of the family, back maybe 1, possibly 2 generations, and I want to say that she's like a great aunt. And this lady comes in, and she says to tell you that she is around much more than what you would imagine. And she comes in with lots of flowers also. And she's very close here, and she's touching you on your right shoulder. And she says that whatever you have done has always been done on the path for right and truth. And you have a very clear eye. And that clear eye is coming from her.
As far as Mr. Boudreau's personal reading for me, I haven't found out yet about my great-aunt Maud, but I was present with our camera crew when Governor Edwards conceded this year's gubernatorial race, and it did make headlines. Now on to our final feature for today. Did you know that Eastern Indians make up a growing population in Louisiana? There are at least 300 Indian families in Baton Rouge alone. Earlier, Asha Ramachandran and her mother came to our studio here at LPB to tell us about the history of Indian classical dancing and to give us a demonstration of this beautiful and unique form of ancient dance.
Indian classical dancing, it is about 700 years old. The specialty about Indian classical dancing is like it is a combination of religion with art, which usually does not happen. Indian classical dancing, mainly all the dances you see will be about mythological stories. And also they all like represent different gods. And if you really know the language, you can associate the stories with the song.
Well, whose idea was it for Asha to study Indian classical dancing in the United States?
It was my idea.
And how did she react when you first proposed the idea to her?
First, I did not tell her that she's going to learn Indian classical dancing. I started coaching her when she was about 3 or 4 years old, just any songs I could find. And later on, I was lucky enough to find a teacher who could teach the classical dancing. And believe it or not, she was an American teacher.
Now, what is the name of the piece that you're going to perform for us today?
It is called Jathiswaram.
Okay, Jathiswaram. And Mrs. Ramachandran, would you please tell us what that means?
Yes, Jathiswaram means it is the coordinating movements of the eyes, the neck, and the hands to the rhythmic footwork. And it is a beautiful piece which you learn after 2 or 3 years of classical dance training.
Okay. Well, after we clear the set, we'll let you dance for us.
Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by a grant from Union National Life Insurance, serving Louisiana and the South since 1926. a family-managed corporation providing whole life insurance.